Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much. Welcome to the stream. Let us know if the audio is okay, if we're too loud or too quiet or whatever. Just hit us up in the chat and we'll make adjustments. One thing we do want to say really fast, as you can see on the bottom of the screen, we have the list of Patreon members, and we want to say we were having some technical difficulties getting it to show everyone's names. Mike, thank you for the follow. So if you are a Patreon member and your name doesn't show on there, just hit us up and we'll make sure it's there for next time. Like I said, we were having technical difficulties getting them all to show. I think they're all showing now, but we don't want anybody to feel left out. We absolutely love all of our Patreon members equally. And all of our members equally. But yeah, we're not trying to leave anybody out. Now that is done and out of the way with, we're going to go ahead and get started. Before I jump in, Lydia, did you have anything else that we needed to say before we jump into demoing the training? Oh, did I mute you? Mm-hmm. Can you say something, Lydia?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, there's nothing that I can think of that we need to go over before we jump in.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I have a horse on the screen, as you can see, and this is kind of what the training menu is going to look like. It looks pretty bare bones. There will probably be some visual tweaks to this as development progresses. But what you'll have to do is when you first load in a horse, you're going to actually select a discipline from the drop down. So we're going to start with groundwork. This horse has no training. So once you select a discipline, then you'll see all of their bars and you can then go and select a task. Now we switched things up a little bit differently. As you can see, some of these are grayed out and aren't selectable. That's because the prerequisite is not fulfilled. Partially we did this because we're changing how prerequisites are calculated. Some tasks require the previous task to be 100% completed. That's groundwork and under saddle pretty much. But when you get into discipline training, a lot of the prereqs only require 50% completion. This will account for that. So this is just going to take a lot of the guesswork out of why isn't my horse, making progress on this task. You literally cannot choose the next task unless the prereq is trained to the required completion. So that is a nice quality of life change. Once you select a task, you will now have the 3 sliders, the time, reinforcement, and pressure sliders. So we're just going to pick, I think it's always good to select in the middle because it gives you a good jumping off point. One thing to note, a lot of the imports are going to be middle ground horses. Most of them are going to want to sit right in the middle. So 30 to 45 minute time range, and then I'll choose 5 and 5, and then you click train. And everybody, oh, are you kidding me? This was just working. Give it a second.
This is my curse, I swear.
Yeah, we literally just tested this. I just showed it to Lydia 10 minutes ago. Okay, give me just 1 second. I'm wondering if I go to a different horse. Mm-hmm. I think I know why that one is having issues. Okay, so let's try this again. So we're going to choose groundwork. Choose desensitize. Let's put it all in the middle. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to cry. There we go. So you're going to get a little pop-up here that has what it says, but it's also that goes away after about 15, 20 seconds. You'll also have the pop-up here. That green pop-up is possibly going to be going away, or it might just be in both spots. It just depends on some coding stuff. But as you can see, Stallion 2's eyes bulge from their sockets when they saw the plastic bag. But responded quickly and calmly when you applied pressure. So the responses that you get in training are kind of broken into 4 sections. You have the, not to go into too much detail, but you kind of have where they're at in their learning. That would be the first section. Where they're at in how much pressure you applied, where they're at in how much reinforcement you provided, and where they were in the amount of time you applied. That's kind of how it breaks down. So we can see that this horse responded quickly and calmly when we applied pressure, and their attention was focused keenly on us. By the end, they were quite content with how much they did learn. So we kind of put it like first try, nail on the head. But let's show if I like use 0 reinforcement and use a bunch of pressure and use a bunch of time. Still gonna think. And okay, so the pressure one's still broken. I forgot that was broken. But they seemed uncertain as to what was the right or wrong thing to do. So that's a response where you have to kind of decide, did I give too much pressure or too much reinforcement, not enough reinforcement? And they were worn out and lost focus towards the end. So we obviously used too much time. Let's use littler time. Let's use a lot of reinforcement. And I guess pressure is broken right now. And that's something to be aware of, guys, as we go through the V2 demo stuff. All of this is still being tested, and we're just wanting to bring you guys along for the ride as much as possible. So we may run into bugs, as we have already done twice today. We'll go ahead and train again. And so we're still not loving the tarp. I'm not sure why actually, I do possibly know why our bar isn't moving. It should be moving up, but we're not giving the best inputs, so that could be part of it. And the other problem is that I think that there might be a bug with that going on right now, because I just did a bunch of refactoring to this stuff, which is always a bad idea to do right before demoing, but yeah, it is what it is. They responded quickly and calmly when we applied. They seemed frustrated and uncertain of themselves. So again, we can kind of tell that reinforcement, we didn't quite hit it on the nail on the head there. And they were still fresh by the end and seemed to want to do more. So that's a great example. We also have another horse that is in under saddle training now. So again, let's go to, I don't know if you guys see these little pop-ups when I go to the horses. This is another fun little thing that I don't think was in the game the last time we demoed it. But let me refresh this and show you again. When you visit a horse's page, they actually will give you a greeting. So this one whinnied as we approached the barn. But if we go to, and these are actually based on their personality, as well as a new personality component called a quirk. Each horse has 3 quirks, and quirks range from anything from like Casanova to there's like the dirty mud lover, one that's always dirty. Let's see what this mare greets us with. So no matter what we did, horse was just not amused with anything we did today. Lydia, will you pull up the quirks spreadsheet and in Google Sheets, and when you have it up, we'll go through a couple more of the quirks.
Sure, I've got it already.
Horses will have 3 quirks, Namira, and yes, they're permanent. So like what they're born with. So this horse wanted to stop at every stall to wicker at the mares. That's a stallion thing. So it's based off of their quirks, their gender, whether or not they're snipped, gelded, I guess is probably the better way to say that. And some of their personality traits. And the quirks are they're not based off personality traits, but certain quirks will be limited. So you can't have a horse that's bomb proof. I don't know if that's one of the quirks. Like when Lydia gets the list up, because it's been a while since we've worked on quirks.
Yeah, I've got the list.
Yeah, do you want to list off a couple of them?
Yeah, so we've got things like a horse who's a goofball, just
which would require high playfulness. Like a low playfulness horse will never be a goofball. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, you're good. We got stubborn horses, bossy, copycats, so ones that like to mimic you, really dramatic horses. So if they, have to get a shot from the vet, they react to it, things like that.
Or just like dramatic in general. Like when they greet you, it's always really loud and and you're not going to see a huge variety in the horses that we have here. I'm going to go to our one that we're going to be working with right now because we just haven't written all of them yet. These are things that are being worked on by Lydia in tandem with me working on the code of the game. So that's why you're only seeing like this stallion is nickering at the mares every time, or the stallions are nickering at the mares every time. But the greetings will rotate. You're likely going to see the same greeting repeatedly, especially early on in V2. But we're going to constantly be adding more greetings. And I call them greetings because I can't think of what else to call them, but they won't necessarily always just be greetings. I think one of them we have in there was like horse was caked in mud when you came to the gate, or stuff like that. So they're not necessarily the horse greeting you. It's just the state that you find your horse in. Sometimes it's the horse greeting you, but sometimes the horse is going to completely ignore you because that's their personality trait. They're not very sociable. Antisocial, I think, is one of them. So it doesn't really have much purpose in the game besides just adding some flair and flavor and the uniqueness to your horses. And we're going to continue to expand on it, on the messages as development progresses and as the game throughout, V2 alpha. Just again, we wanted to, let me just exit Steam so my friends' names don't pop up. Just something that we wanted to, I don't know. It was just an idea I had, and I was like, this would be so cute, and it would give you guys opportunities to feel a little bit more attached to your horses and give them horses a little bit more unique personality and quirks, for lack of a better word. So, which brings us into training. Quirks also will impact training messages. So like if we go to this guy, all these tasks are grayed out because they're 100%ed because they're 100% complete. But if we go to under saddle, you'll see that there's 2 tasks. We can either work on leg yield or walk out. Because right now, I think leg yield is going to require walkout. I just haven't made that change. But like as it stands, like as the game is currently right now. So when you get walkout done, a bunch of these like trot, stop, back up, turn right, turn left, I think will all be available. So you can kind of choose what order you train things in a little bit more in the new system. But that being said, when you get into disciplines, it requires all of the under saddle to be complete to 100%. Anyways, so we can try training this horse to walk out. I'm gonna do this. Why is there a server? Okay, we may not be able to show under saddle today, guys. Sorry about that. I'm gonna try refreshing and trying one more time with this guy. It seems that my horses that already have been trained today are throwing a fit. Give it. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. I'll have to look into that server error offline. But that is the training system more or less in a nutshell.
Should talk about like what personality traits impact each slider.
Yes. So, well, I'm going to hit some key points, just looking at our notes really fast. First of all, the goal with the new training system, just to be clear, was twofold. One of them was to make it feel a little bit more realistic. A lot of trainers in real life either use pressure and release or some sort of reinforcement training. And we wanted to find a way to mimic that. The nice thing about and I see your question, Thorn River, and I will be answering that here momentarily. The other thing that we wanted to do was make sure that it wasn't overly grindy, because we went through a lot of iterations of different ideas. Like I was constantly coming up with like, well, what if we do this? And I had an idea where you would pick a tool and then you would, it got overly complicated and it was going to take people a lot longer to train horses. And we're both really focused on the breeding and how we play. And we didn't want to discount people who just want to breed or discount people who want larger ranches. It just wasn't going to be sustainable. So the nice thing about this is you get to know your horse. Once you get an idea of their personality, you then can set the sliders. And then once the sliders are set, when it's not bugging out like it is right now, and even once you're disciplined and tasked, every time you load up that horse's page and go to the training tab, the last discipline and task that you worked on will be saved and load in, and all of the presets that you last used will be saved and load in. It's just broken right now a little bit, and I got to figure out why. So I should have, I guess, more thoroughly tested it. We'll get into some of the reasons that it wasn't more thoroughly tested and stuff towards the end of the stream when we make a couple of timeline announcements. The idea too was removing some of the clicking. So the time slider, as you notice, like now we have sessions while it's moving to minutes. So it's pretty much the same system. We've just taken our sessions and broken them down or multiplied them into 15-minute intervals. So that system's really the same. You still breed for time remaining, or sessions, which is now time remaining. It's still breedable. So like this horse can do 4 hours and 30 minutes or has 4 hours and 30 minutes left. Whereas another horse maybe can do 6 hours in a rollover. So that's pretty much staying the same. But you're choosing how long each session. So a click is now what we call a session, quote unquote, a training session. So this is how much you're doing in a single training session. And this is how much time you're going to use up. So when I click this would drop down to 3 hours and 45 minutes. And so you can use multiple of, it's getting confusing because we're calling this a session now, but the old way, you're essentially using multiple sessions now in the new version. How well you match each of these sliders, which are based on different personality just personality traits. So the time slider is based off of a horse's energy and playfulness. The idea being energy and playfulness both. And is it based off stamina as well, or did we get rid of that?
It's just energy and playfulness.
Okay. Yep. Just energy and playfulness. So it's essentially their attention span. So like an overly playful horse is going to have a shorter attention span, whereas a horse with low energy is also not going to want to work as long. They're going to throw a fit sooner. The reinforcement is based off of desire to please and I'm trying to think through all the personality traits.
It's submissiveness.
Submissiveness. So the idea being how much positive reinforcement a horse needs, how much reassurance a horse needs to learn. And then pressure is it's not dominance. No. Did I get that?
And responsiveness.
Which ones?
Spookiness and responsiveness.
Spookiness and responsiveness. Is responsiveness not reinforcement? Did I get those backwards? I think submissive is
no. You submissiveness and desire to please are positive reinforcement.
Okay, I know I coded this, guys, but the game is so complex, and when I work on one section, I kind of completely forget about the other section. That's why it's good I have Lydia as backup, because she remembers all of this much better than I do. So yeah, as Lydia said, pressure is the other two, and its ideas, the pressure and release, like how loud you are with your cues and commands. Like anybody here who might be familiar with real life horse training knows that like you try to quiet your cues as much as possible, so you give the least amount of cue. We didn't really implement that in the game specifically. Like you don't back off pressure over time. You just find the level that your horse needs. Can you selectively breed horses to fit a style of training? You love the pressure and release style. If you wanted to have hone-in traits needed for them as consistent training through your lines as another fun goal to my breeding. How will that traits needed for styling affect for comps? You could. So, in fact, a lower spooky horse is going to do better with more pressure, and a more responsive horse is going to do better with lower pressure. So you're honestly, like, if you think about what you're breeding for comps, it depends on the competition. I know for endurance, I like high responsiveness, low spooky horses, which is going to put me around the middle for pressure training. It really depends on which competition you're training for, because not all of them, spookiness does affect all of them in terms of how much variability and score there is. But if I'm remembering correctly, responsiveness is only for certain disciplines, only impacts certain disciplines. So for cross country, is responsiveness required for cross country? I don't remember off the top of my head.
I've forgotten.
We could always do this.
I mean, the effect that the personality traits have on the shows hasn't changed at all. And personality traits haven't always been genetic. So you can breed for whatever personality traits you want. And thereby, I mean, if you really want to focus on it hard so that your personalities are consistent, your training methods will be consistent.
Yeah. Responsiveness is or not required, but it does impact cross-country scores. And I think you want a higher responsiveness. So like a more responsive horse would need less pressure, whereas a less spooky horse could take more pressure. So if you were to breed a horse that's low spookiness, which is ideal for competitions, and high responsiveness, which is ideal for cross country, you're actually probably going to end up right around in the middle here, most likely.
And there's the horses, it's not all just one slider is perfect for every horse. There's usually a range that they accept. So
yeah, we tried to give you a little bit of a grace period of about 3 clicks. So like between 4 to 6, if it was a horse that 5 is technically perfect, you don't have to get it right on the dot. Just to be a little less. I just realized I left my water across the room. Just to be a little less, to give you a little more breathing room. So, okay. So what else? Okay. Some horses, that being said, there's going to be horses with wonky personalities that aren't going to have like a perfect outcome in the 3 slider combination. So that means that horse is going to potentially learn slightly slower because you're never going to get a perfect response from them. that's where, again, will 5 make a difference, though, in comparison to, say, 4? No. In terms of training, yeah. In the specific example that I gave, where 5 is technically quote unquote perfect, but 4 and 6 are acceptable, as far as training speed goes, you're going to see the same results with a 4 or a 6 as you would the 5, as far as how much training they gain that session.
Yeah, so it'll vary by horse. I mean, for some horses, 4 and 5 will work together. Some 4 may work and 5 won't, or 5 will work and 4 won't. It varies by the horse.
Okay, so this brings us to, I'm going to skip auto trainers and come back to it. To some quality of life improvements that we made. You already saw that of the grayed out when prereqs aren't hit. The other thing is, we already talked about under saddle training will need to be 100% completed before you can start any discipline training. So if I were to choose a discipline here, these, obviously I chose a really bad discipline and there's a bug going on there. Let's choose cutting. I just worked hard. Okay, the game hates me today. We're just gonna pretend all those are grayed out. They will be. So you won't be able to train the next task until the prereq is met. And again, some prereqs will only require 50%. So like if we were to go, we don't have everything set up for all the disciplines yet. Lydia's still working hard on the training responses, and she's doing an awesome job at it. But as you can see here, we've got some exercises mixed in with training tasks. So you could do, which gets into exercising is going to be getting a little bit of an overhaul as well. So you still have to have all of your sliders set for exercising. I don't think this is going to work. No. But you're going to get a written response for exercise. There's going to be different levels of exercise. So if I go to endurance, for instance, we have walk, trot, short distance, walk, trot, medium distance, walk, trot, long distance, interval training, and trot figure eights. So these are going to impact stamina. These 3 here are going to impact stamina at different rates, but you will not be able to walk, trot, medium distance until your horse has reached, I believe, 25% of its max stamina. And you will not be able to walk, trot, long distance until a horse has hit, I believe, 50% of their max stamina. So these are still kind of a work in progress. But the idea being is, as the horse builds muscle, as the horse builds performance ability up, you can do heavier exercise with them. Whereas if you were to start with the heaviest one, wouldn't want to do that because your horse could get seriously injured in real life. So we're kind of mimicking that by limiting what you can do. Interval training also is one that's going to be a higher, that they need to reach a certain level of stamina. And there are these across multiple disciplines. We'll also have tasks that are, no, we got rid of the indefinite tasks. So all of them will have, yeah, all of them should have some sort of exercise. They're just not all in yet because, like I said, this is all still kind of being massaged and tweaked, but we wanted to get it out to you guys. That brings us to auto trainers, which I don't have currently set up in the game, but we did want to talk about them. There will be different auto trainers, and in fact, let me pull up the design. Do you think it's good that I share the rough design?
Yeah, go ahead.
I
think it helps illustrate it better.
Yeah, and so it being so abstract. Let me just get in there. I've got my stuff in here too, so I gotta get to it before. Okay. So this is what the auto trainers is going to look like. And there's going to be potentially, there's going to be little caricatures of each of them. We've got the start of those. But essentially you can toggle a specific trainer and they're going to have different training quote unquote styles. And their styles, we think this is how we're going to display it, where they have like, they lean more towards positive reinforcement or more towards pressure. And then we'll have to figure out how the time plays into this. But essentially you're going to have a little graph. And when you choose an auto trainer, you're going to try to choose one that fits your horse's personality. So there'll be essentially at least five different auto trainers. It may be more than that when we add time into it. But yeah, you'll just toggle a specific auto trainer on, and then they will give you a report at the end of each rollover. So you can come here and it'll say something like, horse did really well with the amount of positive report. I don't know exactly what it's going to say, but they'll give you a little rundown of like, horse responded really well to the amount of pressure I applied, but seemed like they needed more positive reinforcement or something like that. We'll make it sound better than that. But it'll give you an idea of whether or not that trainer, it'll give you an idea of whether or not that trainer is the right fit for your horse. And then you'll essentially, when you assign an auto trainer, you'll want to check in the next rollover to make sure that they're the right fit for your horse. And then how well they train will depend on how close of a fit they are to your horse. Just like, so essentially taking what we have up here and just applying it down here. And again, we'll be fiddling with this. This is, the auto trainer hasn't been touched at all as far in terms of coding. So this could be subject to change in how we handle this, but this is our main idea at this point. So, let's see. I think that's training. Let's take a pause on showing you stuff and go ahead and throw us out any training specific questions that you guys have. And then we've got a couple showing things that we want to discuss before we show you a couple exciting sneak peek of some artwork coming. And then we will probably be wrapping it up around the hour mark. So I'm going to give you guys, give it 30 seconds and see if anybody has any training questions. And in fact, while we wait for those questions, I'm going to grab my water. Okay. Give it another 10 seconds. And I grabbed my water and it's like empty. So that was worth it. Okay. Doesn't mean you guys can't ask training questions at the end. Just so if you think of anything, just throw it in the chat and we'll answer it as we get to it. But just wanted to give you guys a chance. So the next thing we want to talk about is shows. And if you look at here, you'll notice a couple things. One, the shows page loaded much quicker than it does in V1. And two, they're named a little bit differently. And thank you, Namir. I'm glad that we were able to explain it well enough. So the reason that this has been optimized, one of the reasons is we've actually removed, and we've mentioned this to the Patreons, but we haven't mentioned this publicly yet. We've actually decided to remove breed-specific shows and open shows, and instead go to they're not body type specific show, they're divisions. So we're going to have a horse division, We're going to have a pony cob division, and we are going to have a mini division, and then a draft division. Yeah. I don't know if I have the draft division in here yet, but you can see a couple of the shows we've got. Yeah, I don't think draft has been coded in because we just recently decided to add that. The idea behind this is twofold. First of all, we wanted to congest the competition a little bit more so that players are competing more against each other than the NPCs. Because it's meant to be a multiplayer game. It's not meant to be a single player game, obviously. And we also wanted to level out the playing field as well. So even though there will technically be more competition because you'll be competing more against other players, you will have a better chance because you will be competing in your same class, quote unquote, division, class, whatever you want to call it. So the horse division will include light, stock, saddle, warm blood, baroque, and that's it, I think. And then pony cob is ponies and cobs, and draft is just draft, and minis are just minis. So no longer will minis be competing and winning against horses because they've got a show score boost. That's just not realistic, and we pride ourselves on being as realistic as possible while still being accessible and fun. So yeah, that's where this decision has come from. It's not a decision that's been taken lightly. It's one that we're open-minded about. If it doesn't work out, we will consider alternatives, but we're fairly certain that this will actually make showing better overall experience. Because breed shows were being used, but they weren't being used a bunch. And, and this is important. Okay. An important thing to note on this too. Part of this change includes a change in the points system and how many points are required to get to each level. So we're actually significantly reducing the number of points required for each level. I think it's going to be only 20 points to get out of level 1. I know it's only 20 points for level 1, or I believe that's what it was. Let me just look it up really fast.
We should say too, while Whitney's looking that up, each of the divisions now, they're going to have their own like special championships and everything. So it's going to be like basically the open divisions used to be where you have futurities, breeders' cups and everything, but all split up across the different body type divisions so that there can be draft horse champions so you don't ever have to compete with what is probably going to be the top is the actual horse division. The minis won't have to compete because as they are currently, a lot of body types like ponies just don't have too much of a shot. So this should help out the more odd or unique breeds that people want to work with.
Yes, so it's going to be 20 points to get to level 2 to qualify for level 2, 50 points to qualify for level 3. These aren't set in stone, guys. We're going to try it at this level at these points and then tweak as needed. 120 points to qualify for level 4, 150 points to qualify for World Championship, 100 points to qualify for a Specialty Championship. Futurity still won't have any point requirement. Breeders' Cup will only be 30 points, and Veterans' Cup will only be 50 points. And then you will also receive more points per win. So first place across all the levels, instead of it being different at each level, across all the levels, first point, I believe, I don't see in here. I thought I changed it in here, but I'm not seeing it. I believe we said that first place will always get 3 points, second place will always get 2 points, and third place will always get 1 point, no matter the level. So you're going to be able, we're doing this, the stream just go blank. Okay, that was weird. My monitor went blank for a second. We're doing this to even out the playing field a little bit, and also to try to push horses that are higher quality through the lower ranks faster, which will in turn even out the playing field. So that also brings us to, oh yes, training requirements for shows are going to change depending on the level. So a level 1 show is only going to need each task for that discipline to be trained to 50%. Anything above 50% will not impact the score. So overtraining is not going to do you any good. So the idea behind this too, again, we're trying to push higher tier horses through the lower ranks quicker. So you'll be able to start showing your horse earlier. And it goes hand in hand with the prereqs, only requiring 50% in disciplines. So once you've hit 50% in V2, the ideal would be to hit 50% for your prereq, move on to the next one, hit 50%, move on to the next one. And then when everything is hit 50%, then you start showing. Because it'll be 100%. You won't get any score penalty for not having trained over 50%, and you won't get any score benefit for training over 50% at level 1. And at level 2, it's at 75%. So once you hit level 2, then you want to make sure everything's trained to 75%. And then once you hit level 3 and above, you'll want everything trained to 100%. Futurities will be 50%. Breeders' cups maybe 75%. We need to look at that. And then all of the rest of the championships will be 100%. So, yeah, that's everything we have on the showing system. If you guys have any questions, have you all thought about how comps will work once horses are progressively getting better? Like some comps specifically for new members? Yeah, we have. We're hoping that this will make enough of a difference because horses will go through the lower level shows, but that's not a bad idea of doing a special division that you have to have an account under a month old or something like that to enter. We'll think on that. But it is in the back of our mind. That's why we're making this change, honestly, it's part of the reason we're making this change. So, okay. Well, I think that's everything that we need to talk about training and showing. Can you think of anything else, Lydia?
You should show them one of the show pages, your new artwork.
Oh, yeah. And the show pages got a little bit of an up scale. Why it's throwing server errors. Again, a lot of work in progress, but show pages now have a fun banner. So this is a saddle jumping show. Let's go to show 200. Watch it be saddle jumping. Endurance. So we've got some fun banners. Show 1. That's not what I meant to do. So here's a barrel racing. See if we can find a rating one. I really like the rating. So it loads in the barrel racing for half a second because it defaults to that. But I'll see if I can fix that. I mean, it's a non-issue really, but yeah, just got some fun little banners for each show type, so you know exactly what you're looking at a glance. Ignore the fact that 5th place is the full amount there. But anyways, so that's all we have for in-game showing of actual stuff, but we're going to show you some sneak previews of some artwork in 3, 2, 1. Now, we're going to preface this with these are works in progress. Oh yeah. Thorn River, go ahead and shoot your question in the chat. But here's an example of some racing tack. Couldn't think of the right term. While we wait for Thorn's question. Yeah. And then we also have, we only have one color of this. We'll give Thorn a question, a minute. You guys can just look at the fun. Again, just stating that these are work in progresses. They're subject to change and tweak as we see the need. So this definitely needs a little bit of cleanup on it, but we're definitely excited to get these in. And the other caveat with this artwork that we're showing is it probably is not going to be in V2 first release, but it will be coming in the alpha period. If horses only need 50, 70, or 100% training on all types, how does that show up when you are training? There is a bar for each of those. So I just potentially revealed some stuff because I scrolled down. That's okay. If you go to cutting, you see these little orange bars. That's 50% and 75%. So you'll be able to see when the bar hits, because this will move when you're training. This little gray indicator will move as you're training to see how much training they've completed, just like in V1. The messages will also give you an indication, but the bar gives you the exact amount. And so once you've hit this 50% mark here, you'll also know, because like flag work, if you're doing flag work, introduced cows might not become available until flag work is done or at 50%. So hopefully that answers your question. Let's go to the next little piece of artwork, which we've got 3 versions of. So we've got this one here, a little like light brown tannish. Mm-hmm. We've got a black version, which is probably my favorite, and a dark brown. And the other thing, or we're going to show them well, if I say it, it's going to reveal it. So I'm just going to do it because I think we did say we were going to. The other thing we wanted to show was this. So just some exciting stuff coming. This is stuff that we both work on when or I in particular work on when I need a break from coding, but I still want to make progress on the game or do something artsy. I like to fiddle with different potential tack options or main and tails. Lydia does it too. We both do it. We get to a point where we're like, okay, we need to do something mindless and with our hands. And so stuff like this comes out. And these will, so they do have, for instance, this blanket is actually grayscale. So it would be coming in different colors, just like the, whatchamacallit blanket, the saddle blankets. But yeah. Okay, so we have about 9 minutes till the hour. So what I want to do, I'm just going to leave this up because I think it's pretty and fun to look at. But we want to give some details on timeline for V2. And I've been avoiding this because it's really hard to say. We just told the Patreons, a couple members like a week or 2 ago, that it was going to be 6 months out. We're already going in this live stream, going to be walking that back a little bit because I didn't know then that I was going to be moving in November, which I now know I'm moving come November. So my whole life is right now packing and getting ready for my move. I'm still working on the game as I have time, but unfortunately, I don't want to call it real life because this is real life and it is important to me and Lydia. But unfortunately, other things in my personal life have come up that have to take a higher priority for the next month, a few weeks. We'll see. Hopefully it doesn't trickle in too far into November once I get the move actually complete. And then after the move, we'll both have holiday coming up, you know, American holidays. We've got Thanksgiving and Christmas and what are coming up, which sometimes means we have more time to work on the game, but not always. I know I have familial obligations during those time as well. And then we'll be going into the new year's. So that's when we'll really be able to hit the ground running, or I personally will be able to hit the ground running with the code. So all that being said, we're going to be shooting for the first access 2v2. And I'm saying first access because there's another announcement that we are going to make. And that is Patreon members are actually going to get early access to V2. Not insanely early access, only a few, like a month to 2 months, depending on how many bugs they find as they're playing. But essentially they're going to be the pioneers of bug hunting for us. And then a month to 2 months, again, depending on how many bugs, we're shooting for a month. After the Patreons first get access, everyone will get access. So we're shooting for Patreons to have access by June, July of 2025. Potentially sooner, but we're going to say that's what we're aiming for. And then for the public access to be in July or April, or July or August. I don't know my months apparently. That's even my birthday month. You think I would know it. July or August. So we're saying 6 to 8 months into the new year is when we will hopefully have full access to the game, to V2 being live. So that is everything that we have. We've got a couple more minutes. We'll give it a couple more minutes for questions. Unless, Lydia, did you have anything else to add?
No, don't think so.
Okay. Give it just a second. See if anybody shoots anything into the comments. Oh, and Namir, thank you for, yes. Hopefully the move will go smoothly. It is a little nervous. I've lived where I've lived for a decade, so I'm a little, little nervous, but it's going to be good. Oh, thank you, Namira. And thank you, everyone, for your support and for joining us on the stream. I think I'm not seeing any questions, so I think we're going to go ahead and end the stream now. I know I have a hard stop in 60 seconds anyways. So thank you guys so much for joining us. We will, as always, get the VOD live in the next couple days, and we'll let you know when the next one is when we know. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.